Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to another Burlingame. It's a small town podcast sponsored by the Burlingame Historical Society. This is Mark Lucchese, also known as Mark at the Mic, and it's my pleasure to have as my guest today longtime Burlingame resident John Catania. John and I are going to share and compare memories of living in two different Burlingame neighborhoods in the late 60s and 70s. John, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. This is interesting.
You bet. It'll be fun. I guarantee it.
Sure.
When's the last time you visited this library?
50 years ago.
50 years ago. Wow. Well, I guarantee you one thing today, John. You're going to walk out of here a lot smarter than when you walked in. It's something about being in this library that just makes you smarter. Okay?
We'll see.
Okay, we'll see. So I'm just wondering, you had so many years that you were here in Burlingame. You grew up here. You went to schools here. But now you live in Foster City. Why the move?
The move. My mother and I were dabbling in real estate, and we had sold a piece of property, and we needed to reinvest some money. So we had heard of this development in Foster City that was quite attractive. And prior to that, I would never have thought to leave Burlingame for Foster City.
Right.
It was definitely not a desirable place as far as not safety-wise, but weather-wise.
Yeah.
Very windy. Well, long story short, after they finished building this home, I decided I wanted to move into it. And,
yeah.
and I'd also expose myself a little bit more to Foster City and realize that it's kind of a neat place.
Mm-hmm.
And though it doesn't have the antiquity and the charm of Burlingame, it does have its own charm. And it's easy to get around in Foster City. Parking's not an issue. So primarily that's the reason. To me, it normally would have been a downgrade to go from Burlingame to Foster City. However, I wasn't looking at it that way.
Right. And Foster City's done some great things over the years. They have a very nice city over there, that's for sure. So what's the backstory, John? When did your parents come to Burlingame? Was this their first home was in Burlingame, or were they elsewhere before they got to Burlingame?
Great question. My parents were born on the island of Malta in the Mediterranean. And my father's sister immigrated to the United States, I believe, in the early 20s. My father was born in 1915. And right about the time of the mid-Depression, my father decided he wanted to move from Malta to the United States to be closer to his sister. And they were involved in racehorsing, and they had a couple bars in San Bruno. As a matter of fact, Artichoke Joe's bar, which is pretty famous,
absolutely,
is my father's uncle.
Really?
Artichoke Joe Sr. and my father's mother were brother and sister.
Boy.
So
wow.
Dad's here during the Depression. He's working in San Francisco for 10 cents an hour, also working the racehorses. And the war breaks out in 1941. Dad, not being a citizen, immediately joined the U.S. Army, and they sent him right from San Bruno, where he was living. Incidentally, I forgot to mention that he did build a small duplex in San Bruno, right off of Keynes Avenue, Keynes and San Mateo. The building's still there.
Mm-hmm.
So after the war, Dad came back to San Bruno, and he decided to go back to Malta and marry his childhood sweetheart, and that was in 1947. So he brought Mom to the United States in 47, and they resided in the duplex on Keynes Avenue at that point.
Wow.
Something about San Bruno just wasn't gelling with my mom, even though she loved being next door to her sister-in-law. However, the story is kind of, it's really hysterical if you really knew my mother, of what she turned out to be in this country. She would save her money, and she had heard that there's a really nice city called Burlingame. So she got on a bus one day and took the bus to Millbrae, and she went into a real estate office on the corner of Victoria and El Camino. And this old distinguished man, now, of course, I'm not born yet, okay? That had to have been about 1952 1952.
Was that Fambrini Realty?
Joseph Mangin Realty.
Okay, got it.
And she said she wanted to buy a piece of property, but didn't want to involve her husband because it would have been a no. And so he took her around and he showed her this empty lot on Loma Vista Drive, and it was the only vacant lot on that street.
And Loma Vista Drive is up in the Burlingame Hills. Is that correct?
It is.
Yeah.
Pardon me. There are only two streets in Burlingame that are west of Highway 35. Loma Vista Drive and Skyview Terrace. Okay, so she bought this land for $2,500.
Unbelievable, yeah.
And after about a year or 6 months, she brought my dad up there, and of course he pitched a fit because it was on a hill. Now we'll build a house in Burlingame on a cliff.
Absolutely, yeah.
This was on a mild hill, so they ended up deciding to build, and they started building the house. I'm guessing mid '53.
Okay.
Because when I was born in 1953 of May at Mills Hospital, the house was not completed yet, because I have pictures of my mother holding me in front of the house in San Bruno.
Right.
So when I look at the statistics on that house, it looks like it was completed in '54.
Great.
So I officially moved in there, I would say '54.
Was that like a basic 3-bedroom, 2-bath home or something?
Split level.
Nice.
The garage is subterranean. When you drive down Loma Vista Drive and you're going straight on, it's a cul-de-sac. When you're driving straight down that cul-de-sac, the only driveway and garage and house you see is 149 Loma Vista, our house.
No kidding.
Yeah. So I used to tell people that would come over, if you got in your car and it got stuck floored, you'd end up going through our garage door and into our garage. Can't miss it. So it's a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath home.
Oh boy.
So,
Three bedroom, 2.5-bath.
right. And now it's 3-bedroom, 3 full baths.
Yeah. So when did your folks end up selling that home, or you still have it as
It's
a property?
still in the family.
Wonderful.
My parents lived in the home from new, and my father passed away in 2012 at 96, and my mother passed away at 2010,
How old was she?
84.
You got pretty good genes, huh?
I hope.
Yeah.
She unfortunately came down with Alzheimer's.
It's rough.
So, and was a person that never smoked, drank. She was a businesswoman. She taught herself everything she knew, including how to speak English the moment she got off the boat in California.
And she became a real estate agent or broker?
No. She made a lot of realtors in Burlingame pretty wealthy, a couple in fact.
Really?
Because what she would do is she would buy a home. She was buying houses all over Burlingame and Hillsborough, Millbrae. She'd buy a home. Let's say you're the realtor. From you'd get the commission when you sold her the home. The family would go through and renovate the property and flip it, resell it, and we'd give you the listing back. So you made money on the same house twice.
Wow, you were like the original flippers.
Yes.
I guess, huh?
And Mom always, she was very compassionate and just a good person.
Yeah.
She was a loyal person.
What was your dad doing during this time?
My father was a house painter.
Okay.
So he was painting primarily on the peninsula, a little bit in San Francisco, but preferred the peninsula, Hillsborough, Burlingame, San Mateo, Millbrae.
Tell me a little bit about your neighborhood and maybe some of the neighbors that were up there and maybe some of the kids you hung out with.
Well, the neighborhood was very tight-knit because it was a cul-de-sac. So in our house, it was my brother Charles and myself.
Charles is older or younger?
Charles is older. Charles also graduated he was born in 48.
That's my year.
Okay, so he graduated from Sarah High School also.
Do you know what year?
Probably around the same time you did.
66 or 67.
I think around 66.
Okay.
And the only people I remember from Mills High were Father Ship.
Right.
And John Catania.
Yeah, Catania was the music teacher.
That's correct. But I used to go to Mills to Mel to Sarah with my mom, because of course Sarah did not provide transportation.
Right.
So
Had to take the bus or get a ride from mom or dad. That's right.
So when you look at the front of our home, you have mom and dad's home. The house next door, 150 Loma Vista, was the Boyd family. And they owned a carpet company in San Mateo called Acme Rug.
Oh, I remember it.
Probably do.
Yeah.
Acme Rug Company.
They were around for a long time.
Oh, yes. 40 years, 50 years.
Yeah.
Then on the left side was very interesting. We had Leon and Helen Gilmore. And Leon was a commercial artist. Helen was a medic, I think, in World War I. But Leon used to do a lot of brochures for travel companies. Leon also did, he had an art process where he would carve into wood and make these stamps and make his Christmas cards every year. But I'm kind of I'm not really giving him the full credit, but I'll tell you how special it is. Those pieces ended up at the Smithsonian.
You're kidding.
Yes, I'm not kidding.
Wow.
They're still at the Smithsonian because they're a very rare process. And Leon Gilmore, it's one of the few people in this world who've had their works shown at the Smithsonian while he's still alive.
Man, I wonder if the Historical Society knows any of that.
Well, I did print up some literature for you.
Yeah, great.
And also for another young lady that's on the Historical Society. Mary Griffith.
Yes.
So
yeah.
So you've got Leon Gilmore. Next to Leon Gilmore, we had Eleanor McCarger. And Eleanor McCarger was also a noteworthy artist. And if you want more information on her, I can get you information from her daughter, who I'm still in close contact with.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. So as a youngster growing up in that particular neighborhood, so you're up kind of higher, okay? I grew up over on Lion Hogue, and I'm still in that particular area, which is one of the older parts of Burlingame. You know, the flatlands, okay? Hop, skip, and a jump away from Coyote Point. I could get to Burlingame Avenue, I kind of grew up at Victoria Park, but I could get to Burlingame Avenue in a heartbeat if I needed to, et cetera. How did you get around from way up there? Did you take a skateboard down the hill and land at Broadway, or did you go over to Millbrae to hang out, or what did you do?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
We were in no man's land.
Yeah.
Okay? You know, we have deer walking around Loma Vista.
I bet.
We even had livestock once in a while in our backyard up there. Nobody came up there.
Right.
Yeah, because technically we are in our development is in the watershed.
Okay.
So I'm sorry.
That's okay.
San Francisco Water Department.
Yep.
That's their property. So that row, Loma Vista and Skyview Terrace, are on the west side of 35.
Got it.
So one of the things, first of all, you took a bicycle down Hillside Drive or Canyon Road, you're not going to ride it back.
No, you're in big trouble trying to come back.
Yeah, no, we didn't have these fancy 21 speed.
Right.
Mom, I want the best bike in town. We had whatever we could make.
Or the electric bikes that they have now.
No such luck. So we could ride down once in a blue moon, and then my father would pick us up in his pickup and drive us back home.
Okay. When you did drive down and you got down to El Camino, I guess, where did you go?
To be honest with you, we only went to Burlingame Avenue for the Fox Theater.
Great. So you remember that.
And I think Montgomery Ward's was on Burlingame Avenue.
That's right.
With hardwood floors.
Yeah. Boy.
But Broadway, I would spend a little more time on Broadway because we had a dear friend of the family's and whose son was my age that lived at the corner of Lincoln Avenue and California Drive.
Okay.
So I would sometimes stay down there for the weekends, and we'd go and hang out on Broadway.
Yeah. So, and what schools did you go to? I know you went to Mills High School. But what about the grammar school and the middle school? Okay,
I went to Benjamin Franklin on Truesdale.
Is it still there?
Yes, it's still there, and it looks modern. People go, you went to, they think I went
Franklin.
to school.
You went
Franklin's,
yes.
Franklin
you threw me
school.
with the Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, Franklin School.
Franklin, yes, right.
And my brother went to Hoover.
Which is...
on Canyon Road.
On Canyon, yeah. Okay.
And Hoover went into some sort of a private affair recently, and I think it's back to an elementary school again.
Yes, they revitalized it, remodeled it, I believe, and it's all up and running. So
And I believe I was the first year of Franklin School.
of Franklin, yeah. Okay. And then middle school?
It was Burlingame Intermediate, right
BIS.
next door.
Great. So that was an easy transition.
7th and 8th.
Yeah.
And-
Did mom or dad take you down every day to go to school then, or what?
No, bus.
Oh, the bus. Great.
We had a bus service that came up, a regular school bus, the orange one, that picked us up right at the corner of Loma Vista and Skyline.
Terrific. Okay. And then you finished up Franklin and BIS, and you went over to Mills.
That's correct.
And tell me a little bit about Mills High School. That had to be in the late 60s. You graduated 73?
72.
72.
Well, 71 and a half.
Yeah.
Because
So late 60s, early 70s. What was Mills High School like?
I think I started in 68.
Okay.
Because I got my license at Mills at 69.
Right, because they had driver's
60.
ed back then.
They did.
Yeah. Okay. And what was Mills High School like back then?
It was a party. However, it wasn't as much of a party as Burlingame.
And how do you know that?
Because half the McCarger girls would not go to Mills. They wanted to go to Burlingame High.
Okay.
And when we were on Loma Vista, we could go to either Mills or Burlingame High. So my mother, who kind of ran the household,
Yep.
Pointed in the direction that you're going to Mills High.
Right.
So that's where I went.
So Burlingame had a stigma of being a party school, huh?
Yes, it did.
That's interesting.
Yes,
Okay.
all the wild kids
Yeah.
went to Burlingame.
So is there anything that you can share with us about Mills High School? Any teachers that you liked or didn't like? Any students that you remember? Anybody went on to any sort of notable career or whatever?
Most of the kids that I went to school with, I'm still in touch with.
Great.
I still have one friend that I've been in touch with for 65 years.
That's terrific.
If you can imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up in Burlingame on Loma Vista as well. We met at 5.
Yeah. Wow.
And we're
Okay.
still friends.
You met in the hood and still going on.
He lives in Arizona. We just celebrated his 50-year wedding anniversary.
Terrific.
I was his best man.
Terrific.
So not too many people have friends that have been around that long.
No, that's for sure. When you were at Mills, did you participate in any sports, drama, band, anything like that?
No.
Were you a good student then? You must have been a good student.
I was decent.
Okay, good.
I was decent. I hated elementary school.
Okay.
I hated Franklin.
Uh-huh.
For the first couple of years, because I had my first grade teacher, Miss Witt. My mother despised because I was a naughty child.
Okay.
So rather than disciplining me, which you could do in those days, she would send me out in the hall. So I spent a lot of my time in first grade
hallway?
in the hall. And then after 2 times in the hall, I went to I'm sorry for kind of digressing.
That's okay.
But I think this is kind of an interesting how times have changed. She would send me then, if I was being naughty in the hall, she would send me to Mr. Lyons' office, who was the principal. So I remember his receptionist, Miss Bacala, would be sitting there with another friend of mine that was from New Zealand, Dale. I can't remember his last name. We were always up to mischief because we knew we'd go to the hall. And that's where we wanted to go. We didn't want to be in the classroom. So Miss Bacala would go, okay, Mr. Lyons will see you in a few minutes. And we'd go into his office, and he would say, okay, who wants to go first? And we took turns. And he had a paddle that was made out of plywood, thin plywood.
With the holes in it?
With the holes in it so it wouldn't catch the wind. You're familiar with that.
Well, you could whip.
How do you know about that?
Well, I just know.
Okay. So he would, and it said ouch on it. So it looked like one of those paddles that you have that with the rubber ball and the rubber band.
Right.
He traced around one of those, but made it out of plywood. And then he put the holes in it so it wouldn't get any wind between you and your backside.
Right.
And he'd pull your pants down, put it over his knee, and whacked you.
Yeah.
And then after he was done whacking the two of us, then he would call my mother. So then I got another whack when I got home.
Which could be worse.
It was worse. I wasn't afraid of him.
Right.
But that went on for the first 2 years at Franklin.
So first and second grade,
Yes. And then third grade, I learned a lesson, and I was a good kid.
you were good from there on out.
Yes.
Until you transferred over to BIS. BIS went well for you, intermediate?
No problem there.
Great.
No problem. I had a crush on my science teacher.
Yeah.
I remember going out and getting her, sourcing hubcaps for her Ford Fairlane.
Oh, my gosh.
She was a beautiful gal, Miss Voskile.
Uh-huh.
And I was really into cars as I am now, hopelessly devoted to cars. And I noticed that all the hubcaps were missing on her. It was about a 66 Ford Fairlane.
Oh, that was a nice-looking car back
Very
then.
nice looking car.
Yeah, that was a great-looking car.
Very sought after car now.
I had a friend that had a 66 Ford Fairlane red, and it was a gorgeous car.
Hers was white,
Yeah.
and it was missing all the hubcaps. So I went to the auto wrecker in San Carlos Auto Wreckers,
Absolutely.
and I
Yep.
sourced 4 proper wheel covers for that car.
Wow. That must be apartments or condominiums now, huh? That's gone.
And part of it, the airport is there,
Oh, maybe that's it, too. That's right.
San
Yeah.
Carlos Airport.
So since you were into cars and you got your driver's license and you were still at Mills High School, right? Did you go cruising on Friday nights or Saturday nights or anything like that?
Are you kidding me, Mark? We would go through 2 or 3 tankfuls a night.
Did you have a special, starting place and flipping place? In other words, would you go from like Lyons and Millbrae, go down to the mall, or even farther than that, take a U-turn and keep going? Is that basically what it
funny.
was?
Were you in my back pocket? We would start out at Lyons, right there at Murchison,
Right.
and
In El Camino.
and El Camino, and I pumped gas at that Unit 76 for a while.
Good for you.
It's still there.
Yeah, good for you.
But my mother at the time had a 1964 Chevelle Malibu Supersport.
Oh, nice car, man.
And she bought it brand new right here in Burlingame from Dick Bullis Chevrolet.
Oh, on the corner of Howard and California
That's
Drive.
right. And
Yep.
and that car sat on the showroom floor for about 5 months after she purchased it because GM went on strike. And they needed that car for a display because it was the first year of the Malibu.
Oh, no kidding.
It was also the first year Malibu that was sold in Burlingame was sold to my mother.
Wow. Great.
So that was a fun car.
Yeah.
So yes, we would cruise. We would go down as far as Woodside Road.
Oh, you went down far.
Oh yeah, sometimes we go all the way to
That's
San
in
Jose.
Redwood City. We would turn around at Hal's Whistle Stop in Belmont.
Yeah,
okay,
I
and
remember
come back
Hal's Whistle Stop.
Come back to Lyons and repeat. Yeah, fun
Back-
stuff.
Stop at A&W in San Mateo.
Yeah, A&W. That's
But
boy.
we actually, one of my friends that I've been friends with for 65 years, he actually started the cruising at about 13.
Oh, terrific.
Don't tell anybody.
No.
You didn't hear that.
Will you actually delete that? Okay. So
Well, and we had 2 police officers that lived on Loma Vista.
really.
Yes, we had Hank Rodriguez.
Okay.
Who was with Burlingame PD.
Uh-huh.
And we had Mr. Emmerich. We only knew him as Officer Emmerich.
And he was Burlingame as well.
CHP.
Okay, CHP.
And he was a big. They knew we were driving the cars. I wasn't as bold to go down to the El Camino, but Doug was, and
Boy.
his mother had a '60 Bonneville convertible.
My goodness.
And and Doug's 13 and 14 years old and cruising the car. But
man.
that car is like 25 feet long.
Oh, it's a big car.
And it's
Yeah,
got it's convertible. So you'd think he might have the top ups to camouflage.
No way.
Nothing doing.
Top down.
No.
On his way. Did you guys, while you were cruising or when cruising was over, did you have a place that you guys like hung out at? Did you have a favorite besides A&W? I know you mentioned that. Was there any other places maybe on the Avenue you went to or Broadway?
No.
No?
Broadway, the Village Host, or commonly known by us, the Host.
The Host, right?
Was a place that we would just go meet and have pizza.
Correct.
But as far as stopover points, it was A&W and that was about it. And Lyons.
Yeah. Okay.
Just cruise.
Because you went to Mills, did you ever go downtown Millbrae?
No.
No, there was no
interest.
No interest. Mm-mm. Getting back to the Avenue now for a minute. You mentioned the Fox Theater. I think you mentioned Montgomery Ward's. I can't remember Montgomery Ward's. I think it was it Levy Brothers? Levy Brothers. Do you remember that?
I remember Levy Brothers.
On the corner. Did you guys ever have lunch on the Avenue or have a breakfast there or anything like that?
Not that I remember.
Okay.
Because Burlingame Avenue is too far away.
Yeah. What was at the plaza at that time?
At the plaza, we hung out there quite a bit too because there was a hobby shop there,
Yes, I remember that.
Hobbyville. And it was an elderly couple. It was a high-end hobby shop.
Uh-huh.
So
Did they have slot cars then?
No.
Or were they gone?
They sold them, but they did not have a track.
Right.
If you wanted a track, we had to go to San Bruno.
Okay. Because there was one on Burlingame Avenue for a while.
I don't recall that one.
That was back when I was very young. Yeah. Okay. So what supermarket was at the plaza? Do you remember that at all? Was Petrini's there yet?
No, Petrini's wasn't there.
But do you remember Petrini's?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good.
And Millbrae had QFI,
Yeah.
but
It might have been Lee Brothers.
it was Lee Brothers.
Yeah. Okay.
At where
Lenardi's is.
Lenardi's is now. That's
Yep.
correct. But at the plaza we had Gail's Coffee Shop.
Yes, which is now Neil's.
That's correct.
Uh-huh. Did you go to Gail's?
Yes, and
Yeah.
Neil's is still a good place.
Neil's is great. I went there for my first time like 2 weeks ago, and it's so old school and retro. It's great.
It is, and they have another one up in San Mateo.
Oh, is that right?
Yes,
Great spot.
very good place.
We're kind of lucky around here because we have Christie's. We used to have Nini's over in San Mateo, close to where I live in Burlingame, and Neil's is a great spot now. How about the Friday night rec dances? Were they still going on when you were in high school?
They were, but we didn't go.
How come?
Most of the time we hung out with friends, but what we did do a lot is we went ice skating.
And where was that?
The Burlingame Ice Rink. And I'm trying to remember, when you take a left off of Broadway onto Rollins Road, you go up to that first stop sign,
Yes.
and then you make
Yep.
another left
Now I remember
toward
it.
the tracks.
Yeah, I had forgotten all about that.
And then you make a right.
Yeah.
And the back of the Burlingame Ice Rink was literally on the tracks.
That's great. So you went ice skating.
Yes.
Did you ever go to the Rolladium over there on
Once in a while.
once in a while?
Roller skating was not, we found ice skating more fun.
No kidding. Would they get pretty good crowds in there?
They did. And it was owned by a couple of Australians. They were the Kermans.
Yeah.
And they were with Ice Capades.
No kidding.
So they used to have good shows there.
I bet. That's pretty cool.
It was a lot of fun.
Okay, John, so you've been in Foster City now how many years?
Since 88, I guess.
So that's about
35.
35 years,
Yes.
right? Almost longer than you lived here in Burlingame, or about half, I guess, split more or less?
Yeah, well, yes, because I'm 70.
Right. Okay. Living in Foster City, which is great, no issues. How often do you come over to Burlingame?
Often.
Once a month, once a week?
No. Probably every other day.
Really?
Yes. I still have friends that have businesses here in Burlingame.
Yeah. Okay.
As well, I've got a couple of pieces of property here still.
Okay.
I still have the Lincoln Avenue house.
Yeah, that's nice. That's, what do they call that? Post office money or mailbox money or something like that is the expression.
I was able
think.
to afford that house with money I made as a Continental Airlines ticket agent.
That's terrific.
And I actually have with me a multiple listing that a realtor just roguely sent me recently. I have the original at home. This one is a photocopy of it. And interesting about that particular home, when I was doing some work in the garage one day, I noticed that there was a cut line for multiple telephone line. And there were two entrances to the house. One went into like an office, and the other one went in. And I was discussing that with my mom, and she said, well, you know, this house was built and owned by the mayor of Burlingame.
And who would that have been at that time?
So I said, this little house? And she said, I said, with all those beautiful houses in the city, up in the Burlingame Hills? And she said, well, he was the mayor. He wasn't rich. So I did a little further research recently I'm trying to remember the mayor, Baylock. Kathy Baylock.
Kathy Baylock. Yep.
Kathy Baylock's husband. I brought this up to them over dinner.
That would have been Joe.
Joe Baylock, yes. And I said, you know, my mother always told me that my house on Lincoln Avenue belonged to the mayor. So I gave him the address, and they left and went home, and I left and went back to Foster City. Within about 20 minutes, I get a text message from Joe Baylock, and he says, bingo. And it was Mayor Love.
God, what year would that have been?
It would have been 1950. I think the house was started, I think, in 49.
Okay.
He lived in it in 50 until 1961.
Wow.
Now, he wasn't mayor, of course, that whole length. I think he was a short-term mayor.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at this multiple listing paper, and it shows that Mayor Love had the house on the market in 1961, and it was listed for $19,950.
Unbelievable.
And it has an immediate occupancy. It also has a one-bedroom studio that could be rented for $50 a month. And I think the house closed for $18,500.
So it sold for under what he
Yes.
was asking? Oh, my gosh.
You can't even buy a used Prius
No,
for that
that's
much money
not
today.
gonna happen.
So that's the actual real. I'm not sure how this realtor here locally tracked me down. I know everything's public record,
Right.
But I thought it was really nice of him to send me this. And again, like I said, this is a photocopy. I have the original at home in my safe.
That's pretty cool.
So the house is still in the family.
Man, awesome.
Yeah.
So on your visits to Burlingame, which you said are quite frequent, obviously you've been seeing a lot of things going on around here. Have you seen the new community center over on Burlingame Avenue that replaced the old rec center? If you haven't, you should.
No, but I was curious as to what they put up that blocked the milk sign.
That's somewhat controversial, but it's offices. Basically, it's just going to be offices. Now, have they been rented or not? I don't think all of them are rented yet. There are some issues with the rentals right now, with so many people still working from home, but that's what's kind of blocking the milk sign right now. You got to get over and see the new community center, which was the old rec center. It's state of the art. Have you seen where the post office was, the old post office that we had over on Park and Lorton? It's going to be the new 6-story town square.
Oh.
And that's also a little bit controversial for some people. You know, change is good, but change is not good for some or not for all. And everybody a lot of folks want to remember old Burlingame, right? Well, old Burlingame is changing. And we have lots of buildings like that going up. There's going to be lots of things going on at the Bayfront. Life Sciences are going to be the old Hyatt Cinema Theaters coming down all the way to where Max's Restaurant. That's all going to be built up and redeveloped. Where Gulliver's Restaurant was out there, that's all going away and more built. And I'm sure you've seen the Facebook buildings.
Yes, where the theaters were.
Right. I'm not always in agreement with everything, but what are you going to do? You can't get in the way of it. So you might as well just roll with it and go with it, right?
It's just kind of sad that they're not going to repurpose the Hyatt Cinema, even though I'm sure that the real estate's worth more than what they can do there.
That's the thing. Absolutely. Right. It's just not going to be
because
repurposed.
the Hyatt House, I used to go there and get my hair cut.
He went to Sarah. I know who you got it cut from, and I can't think of it. I'm losing it, man. Sorry, but I knew lots of people that went to Michael Hanley is who you got your hair cut from. Could have been. Yeah, no, it was, okay?
Because I was very good friends with this guy, Jeff Reese, and we're still in contact. And Jeff Reese's father owned Metcalf Reese Lincoln Mercury.
Oh, boy.
Does that go back?
Yeah, sure does.
So that was another thing that I didn't touch base on with cruising the El Camino.
Yeah.
Because we were, pretty square shooters, Jeff's father used to let us take any car we wanted off the used car lot on a Friday night.
Wow.
After the dealership closed.
Right.
As long as we were civilized with it. So we were cruising Panteras, you name it, Jaguars. Most of the time, the trade-ins were nicer than what they bought.
That's great.
That's how I kind of gone on that off that tangent there. That's where Jeff Reese and his father Matt Reese would get their hair cut.
Yeah.
So they wanted me. They took me to the Hyatt.
Yeah. Is Jeff still around?
Last time I saw Jeff, it was just going through some rough times.
Okay.
So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I've lost track of
I
him.
think that was on the corner of Bayswater and California.
That's right.
I believe it was anyway.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's where the Kia store is now. And I think Putnam Ford is putting new Fords on that lot, kitty corner to it.
Yeah. Auto Row is still a big deal here in Burlingame, but it seems like in the 60s, 70s, 80s, it was really a big deal.
It was.
Yeah, you had David James Arata on the quiet side of Burlingame Row, Auto Row, he would say. It was funny, man. So, okay, so even though you're not living here anymore, any thoughts on the changes that are going on, or do you kind of wish you were back, or are you very happy in Foster City?
I'm happy in Foster City. I walked down Burlingame Avenue today, and I thought this is a charming place.
Yeah.
And whenever I had customers at Continental that had like a layover and they would be staying, let's say, at the Hyatt or one of those places, I would let them know it's just a short ride. Go to Burlingame Avenue. There's two main drags, as I call it, through Burlingame. One's Broadway, one's Burlingame Avenue. And they would come back and say, we never had any idea.
Yeah.
I mean, it truly is a gem.
Yeah.
The city is doing something great.
Yeah.
Because I walked down there, all the storefronts are open. I was just in San Francisco a few days ago, and boy, what a depressing place.
It's a mess.
It's a mess. Calling it a mess is an understatement. Burlingame Avenue is just like a gem.
It's bustling. I was there last Sunday, visiting a friend. Place was packed.
Today, all the outside eateries
Yeah.
are occupied. The only problem that I've ever had with Burlingame Avenue is getting parking
I know.
sometimes.
So now we built the structure. The city built a beautiful structure on Lorton, 1 block away from the avenue, and it's doing pretty good. It's not doing as good as it should, just because. But some people have an issue of walking a block. Okay, but if you were in the city and you wanted to go to your favorite restaurant and there was parking a block away, you would love that, right? But down here, it just seems to be a little different. So anyway, they're doing some things about it. The city's growing, that's for sure, but it still remains somewhat quaint.
I parked in front of the library today.
Good.
But the street that comes into the library from El Camino.
That's Chapin.
Is that Chapin?
Uh-huh.
That whole area was completely empty. There wasn't maybe one or two cars parked there. So there was probably 100 empty spaces.
Yeah. Right now, if you find a parking place around here, everybody's on vacation. They have taken off. So generally, those things are packed.
So you are saying that we put in a multi-level parking structure
it's
on Lorton?
I think it's either 3 or 4 stories. I forget. It's on Lorton, and but it's never full.
Really?
Yeah, they don't.
I'll have to check that out.
You should. Yeah, it's a great way to get around and see everything. So, so this October, even though you didn't go to Burlingame High, you went to Mills. Burlingame High is celebrating their 100-year centennial anniversary, and it's going to be a 3-day event. Would you have any thoughts of attending that?
Sure. When is it? October?
In October. I think I don't want to quote the dates because I know I'll blow it, but I think it's somewhere around the 14th, 15th, and 16th, something like that. And it's going to be quite a hoopla going on. So
that would be fun.
You sort of went to the sister's school, right?
Well, I consider myself a Burlingame person.
Yeah. Yeah, you should. You have property here. And you went to school here.
Well,
this
is where the main part of my life took place.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm just kind of in the rat race where I am now. But this is where all my quality life really happened.
Yeah. I got just 2 more things for you before we wrap it up. Mary Griffith, my fellow Historical Society board director, is the one that recommended me to have an interview with you. How do you know Mary?
About in 2013, I had a cat that passed away, and I needed a Band-Aid. And the Band-Aid I decided on was to go to Rector and buy a new Porsche.
Okay.
So I walked into Rector, and I found this salesperson, and his name is Richard Griffith.
Got it.
There's the connection.
So
I asked Richard, I told him what had happened and what do I need to do in order to see what's going on with these cars. I've never driven one. I said, I don't even care to drive it. I'm sure it drives fine.
Right.
And we couldn't find a car for me, so he had to order the car, and it took 6 months. Well, during that 6-month time, I got cultivated a friendship
Right.
with Richard and Mary.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another. So when Portia sends me the surveys, I tell them I enjoy the car. However, I enjoy the salesperson and his family much more than I enjoy the car.
Isn't that great?
So that's how I met Mary. She's
Yeah.
a wonderful person.
Terrific. Yes, and that's how I got the lead on this. And I said, I can't turn this down. I graduated in 72. Was 72 from Mills, and I was 66 from Sarah, and your brother went to Sarah. So chances are we were in the same class. So,
I think you probably would have been with my brother.
yeah, that's crazy.
And that's how I got my nickname. One of my first supervisors at Continental had also graduated from Sarah around the same time. And Catalano was his music teacher. And John Catalano's nickname was Johnny Cat.
Johnny Cat.
So my
Email.
Pardon?
Your email.
My email is Johnny Cat.
That's great.
And my license plate's Johnny Cat.
That's great.
So I've had Johnny Cat ever since 1975.
Terrific.
Because Hal Williams, my first supervisor, nicknamed me Johnny Cat, and it stuck.
It stuck.
So
Well, Johnny Cat, thank you so much for being a guest today on Burlingame. It's a small town.
my pleasure.
I'd like to thank former longtime Burlingame resident John Catania for being my guest today on Burlingame. It's a small town podcast sponsored by the Burlingame Historical Society. Thanks to Kathy and Shelby Lucchese for editing and producing, the great Ray Tyler for video, original music by Bray. You can hear more of Bray at braymusic.com. This podcast was recorded on Thursday, July 20th, 2023. The Burlingame Historical Society copyrights this recording, and no part can be copied or replayed without the permission of the Burlingame Historical Society. So until next time, everyone, see you around Burlingame. It's a small town.